Hi, my name is Christopher Quapel, and my topic for today is focus and sports performance. So focus in sports plays a huge role in how an athlete performs on a daily basis. Any athlete can lose their focus at any given time of a game, even when they are on a roll. In my project, I will be talking about what makes up focus, as well as ways people can lose their focus and improve on them as well. So what makes up focus? Focus is made up of the 4 C's. The 4 C's are concentration, confidence, control, and commitment. Concentration, by definition, is the ability to maintain focus. Concentration is separated into 2 different types of focus, known as broad-narrow continuum and internal-external continuum. So let me elaborate a little bit more on what broad-narrow continuum and external continuum are. Broad-narrow continuum is an athlete's focus on small or large number of stimuli. So basically what that means is, for the broad aspect of it, it's when a football player, like the quarterback, is focused on the defensive alignment of how the defense is set up. And the narrow focus is where the QB wants to throw the ball. So like the defensive player, let's say the linebacker, is focused on where the football is going to be thrown. That is what narrow continuum is. Internal and external continuum are focuses on internal stimuli and external stimuli. These can be like self-talk, or like the feelings of what the athlete is thinking during a certain play, or the external stimuli, which is usually like more of a visual or auditory stimuli, which can be like the football, baseball, whatever ball that is in front of them. There are also different demands of concentration. These different demands of concentration are sustained concentration, short bursts of concentration, and intense concentration. Sustained concentration is being able to stay focused on an activity for a long period of time. Certain sports that focus on sustained concentration are long distance runners, cyclists, and tennis players. Short burst concentration is being able to stay focused for a short period of time. So like these are like the sports like golf, cricket, skeet shooting, that you have to really focus on a certain area for a short period of time. Like a golf swing, you have to just focus on the golf swing and nothing really after. Like you don't have to really focus on anything afterwards. As versus like sustained concentration, where the runner has to be concentrated throughout the entire run, making sure that they're focused on their stride, their breathing, certain aspects of that nature. And intense concentration is more or less a mix of both sustained and short bursts of concentration. They need to be focused throughout the event, but then turn their concentration to the next gear to finish their event. These sports are like sprinting events, skiing, bobsleigh. Skiing might be the best example of this because it's a race, but you also have to be wary of where you're moving and where you're maneuvering to be able to avoid the little sticks that they have set up in front of you. Confidence. Confidence is a result of how the athlete either succeeds or fails the goal that they set for themselves. There are 2 forms of confidence athletes go through, and these forms are high self-confidence and low self-confidence. High self-confidence, you'll typically see the athlete with positive thoughts. They're really calm, excited, and prepared for the event that they're going to be performing in, whether it be in baseball, basketball, like you know what I mean. They're focused on themselves and the task at hand, and they give max effort and positive reactions to setbacks. On the other scale, you have the low self-confidence players, which tend to be more on the negative side of things. They have negative thoughts. They tend to be tense, anxious, and almost honestly scared to play the sport, or like in the event that might like cause them to be too tense and too anxious. They tend to be more focused on other athletes, the umpires, the coaches. They don't tend to really think about themselves, but more around like the greater scale of like the people around them. As for their effort, they barely give any, and they tend to blame others for the outcomes of certain games. They like to point the finger a lot. Control. Control is focused on the emotional aspect of the athlete. Success for an athlete is determined by their ability to control in certain situations during the game. If the athlete doesn't face the adversity with a positive outlook, they will most likely fail. Commitment. The level of success in sports depends on how committed the athlete is. Improving your commitment to the sport you play can be done by setting goals for yourself, whether it be like a long-term goal or like short-term goals. I tend to like making short-term goals that'll eventually set up for the goal that I want for the long term. That's how I usually do things. Some guys just like doing it step by step. Some people just like doing it in the greater scale. They'll just try to do a bigger goal for the end of the year or some sort of thing like that. Doing this keeps the athlete in a competitive spirit at all times as they are trying to complete said goals and even compete with themselves, honestly. Some reasons for some poor focus. As you see here, it's frustration, lack of intensity, tension, anxiety, and lack of preparation and trust. So when an athlete tends to get frustrated, it's because of certain outcomes during the game. And I'll be one to say it. I tend to get really frustrated on the mound sometimes when I make a really good executed pitch on the, like, let's say a slider, an 0-2 slider on the floor, and somehow, some way, the hitter makes contact on it, and it choops, and like it bleeds over the third baseman, or they find a way to poke it through the hole, and it causes a lot of frustration. And when you become frustrated, you tend to lose a lot of your confidence and like as well as your focus, because you tend to like focus on what just happened rather than just being ahead of what's going to be happening afterwards, and like being able to like focus and bear down to be able to, say, you know what, screw it. It happened already. Let me go ahead and let me just focus on the next batter at hand. Lack of intensity is most likely the biggest reason why people lose focus, because you'll tend to play a team that you look at and you're like, oh, they don't really like play that well. They don't have that good of a record, and you kind of overlook them. And then next thing you know, your focus is so not there that you tend to lose the game, and then you get really frustrated and you get really mad with your team and like everybody else that's in your team because of the fact that you guys lost the focus. Tension and anxiety. This is what happens when the player loses focus, because the game tends to get too big in their heads and they don't know how to take it. Lack of preparation and trust. Again, the reason why people tend to get anxious and tense out there in their sport is because they feel like they aren't mentally prepared for said game or event, and it gets to their head, and eventually they just have poor focus and they play poorly as well. Ways to improve your focus. Know what to focus on. So people tend to overthink and overfocus on certain things that they don't really need to worry about. Like as a pitcher, like myself as a pitcher, I'm a pitcher, so all I have to really worry about is throwing strikes and getting outs, and let the hitters do their thing. Some guys might begin to focus on, oh, like this guy isn't that good defensively, so I gotta make sure that I make a pitch that they don't hit the ball over there to their side. And honestly, like, it just never works. And sometimes it'll really bite you in the neck, and next thing you know, you're playing poorly and you lose the game because you were too worried about what was going to happen rather than just trying to play the game. Control what you can control. And this is probably the hardest one out of this group of ways to improve, because people tend to try to like control other things that they cannot control, like myself. Sometimes an umpire might make a bad call, and I'll get really frustrated about it, and then that's where everything starts to go downhill. Keeping your cool under pressure, like I mentioned earlier, you have to just take it at face value and just keep going and pushing through. Use mental imagery. Mental imagery is honestly the best way to go, because you can only practice so much physically. It takes a lot more skill to focus on things in a mental aspect, which is why a lot of top tier athletes like LeBron James, Michael Jordan, these guys have been visually seeing themselves do the things that they've done since they were at such a young age. Rate your performances. Rating your performance is actually a really good way to backtrack and like see how you can improve on your focus or on your game, and then you go to practice the next time around and you just try to execute things that you weren't able to do the last time, which really helps in the long scale of things, and like it improves your focus to the next level. In conclusion, like I mentioned earlier in the presentation, any athlete can lose focus. You can lose focus from playing teams that don't pique your interest, or just letting the moment of a big game get to you. Either way, working on the few exercises that I mentioned earlier will help definitely improve your game and push you past that barrier. If it worked for me, it will definitely work for you. Here are the reference pages and the reference websites. Thank you so much. Have a great summer. Thank you.